There comes a moment in every person's life when they look in the mirror and realize one truth: no one is coming to save them. No rescue team, no magic solution, no miracle waiting around the corner. There is only you, the choices you make, the power you claim, and the courage you decide to unleash. For too long, too many of us walk through life carrying the weight of old stories, blaming our past, our environment, our family, the economy, the world. And every time we point a finger outward, we give away a piece of our power. But today is the day that stops. Today is the day you take back the pen and rewrite the story. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your destiny. Life will hit you. Life will test you. Life will hand you moments that feel unfair, overwhelming, even cruel. But it is in those moments that your true strength is forged if you're willing, truly willing, to stop surrendering your power to excuses, to fear, to doubt. Then your life can transform faster than you can imagine. And it all begins right now, in this moment, with one decision, the decision to take control of your life and rise. You are not defined by your circumstances. You are defined by the decisions you make today. This idea is powerful because it recognizes the truth that life isn't always fair, equal, or predictable, yet also reminds you that you are never powerless. Circumstances can shape you, influence you, challenge you, and even slow you down, but they cannot determine who you become unless you allow them to. Too often, people believe their past is a verdict rather than a lesson. They think their hardships, failures, or environment place a permanent label on them. But labels only stick when you choose to accept them. The moment you decide that your past is only a reference point and not a residence, you reclaim your ability to choose who you will be next. Every new decision becomes a step out of the shadows of what happened to you and a step into the potential of what you can create. Circumstances may have introduced pain, doubt, or fear into your life, but decisions are what guide you out of them. A decision to grow, a decision to learn, a decision to try again when everything inside you whispers that it's easier to quit. People who transform their lives are almost never the ones who had perfect beginnings. They are the ones who refuse to be defined by their beginnings. They looked at what they had, where they were, and who they had become, and still said, I can choose differently. That power exists in you right now. You may not have control over the storms you've walked through, but you do control how you rise after them. You control your next move, your next choice, your next belief about yourself. When you realize that every decision you make carries the ability to shift the direction of your life, your mindset changes. You stop waiting for ideal conditions. You stop blaming the obstacles. You stop expecting someone else to fix what you've been avoiding. Instead, you take responsibility for the parts of your life that only you can influence. Responsibility isn't a burden, it's freedom. It means you no longer have to wait for someone to change your life for you. It means you can decide your own standards, your own habits, your own boundaries, your own future. Each decision becomes a vote for the person you want to become. With every choice, you either reinforce your limitations or break them. You either continue the old story or begin writing a new one. Your circumstances are only the starting point. They don't define your character, your destiny, or your worth. What defines you is the strength to choose courage over comfort, action over excuses, and growth over stagnation. The moment you accept that the direction of your life is shaped not by what has happened to you, but by what you decide to do next, everything opens. Your future expands. Your identity evolves. You step into a level of personal power that no circumstance can take away. You gain the certainty that as long as you keep choosing with intention, you can transform anything in your life. Your life changes the moment you stop blaming and start claiming responsibility. Blame is the easiest path because it allows you to point outward instead of inward. It gives temporary relief by shifting the weight of accountability onto someone else, something else, or some situation you believe you had no control over. But the truth is, blame keeps you stuck. It freezes your growth because it convinces you that the power to change your life lies outside of you. When you blame circumstances, people, or past events, you hand them control over your present and your future. You become a passenger in your own life instead of the driver. Responsibility, on the other hand, is the moment you grab the steering wheel again. It is a decision to stop waiting for someone to apologize, someone to fix things, someone to behave differently, or life to give you better conditions. Instead, you acknowledge that your next move, your next thought, and your next action belong to you alone. Taking responsibility isn't about accepting guilt or blaming yourself for everything that has happened. It's not about carrying shame or believing everything is your fault. It's about recognizing where your power actually lives. Responsibility is the realization that while you cannot rewrite the past, you have complete freedom to shape what happens next. It means you stop asking why life is unfair and start asking what you can do right now to shift your direction. The moment you embrace that mindset, you stop feeling helpless and start feeling capable. You start seeing solutions instead of obstacles, opportunities instead of limitations, and choices instead of dead ends. When you claim responsibility, you reclaim your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone things happen to and begin seeing yourself as someone who creates outcomes. That shift is transformative because it awakens a deeper part of you, the part that knows you are stronger than your excuses and bigger than your fears. It forces you to evaluate the habits, beliefs, and patterns that have been holding you back. Maybe you've been procrastinating, surrounding yourself with the wrong influences, or repeating behaviors that sabotage your growth. Responsibility shines light on these things not to punish you, but to free you. It exposes what needs to change and empowers you to change it. As you take responsibility for your choices, you begin to trust yourself more. You begin to recognize that you are capable of handling challenges rather than running from them. You feel the weight shift from external control to internal strength. And the more you practice it, the more confident you become. Response. Ability breeds momentum. Momentum breeds transformation. Transformation builds a life where you no longer feel like a victim of circumstances, but a creator of possibilities. It is in this state that your life begins to accelerate, not because life became easier, but because you became stronger, more deliberate, and more committed to your own growth. Pain can be your prison or your power. The choice is always yours. Every human being carries pain in some form. It may come from betrayal, loss, fear, failure, disappointment, or moments that shook your confidence to its core. Pain is universal, but how you respond to it is deeply personal. Some people allow pain to become a cage that traps them in old memories, old wounds, and old identities. They replay what happened again and again until their mind becomes a museum of suffering. They avoid risks, hide from challenges, and shrink their potential because the pain convinced them that staying small is safer. This is how pain becomes a prison. It keeps you locked inside a past you never wanted, preventing you from stepping into a future you deserve. But that same pain can also become the very force that shapes your strength, fuels your ambition, and awakens your power if you choose to use it differently. Pain holds a kind of energy that can either break you or build you, depending on the meaning you attach to it. When you decide that your pain is not punishment but preparation, everything changes. You start to see that the moments that hurt you were also moments that revealed your resilience. You recognize that challenges taught you how to endure, failures taught you what to improve, and heartbreak taught you what truly matters. Pain becomes a teacher, not a tormentor, when you stop asking why me and start asking what is this trying to make me become. With that mindset, the experiences that once felt like barriers transform into stepping stones. They give you depth, insight, empathy, and a fire that cannot be manufactured any other way. Some of the most powerful people on earth didn't rise because life was easy. They rose because they allowed pain to sculpt them into stronger versions of themselves. Choosing to let pain empower you doesn't mean ignoring it or pretending it didn't affect you. It means using it as raw material for growth. It means acknowledging the wound, but refusing to let it define your identity. It means realizing that if you survive the worst parts of your past, you already have proof of your own strength. Pain becomes power when you turn your struggle into strategy, your hurt into hunger, and your setbacks into fuel. It requires courage to confront the parts of your life that made you feel weak, but transformation is impossible without that confrontation. Every breakthrough begins by facing the thing that once broke you. When you view pain through the lens of empowerment, it shifts your entire life trajectory. You begin to understand that nothing was wasted. Not a tear, not a failure, not a moment of doubt. Every piece of pain becomes part of the foundation of your growth. Instead of letting it imprison your potential, you channel it into your purpose. Instead of letting it close your heart, you let it deepen your wisdom. Instead of letting it limit your future, you let it ignite your drive. Pain stops being a burden and becomes a reminder of what you're capable of overcoming. It becomes the energy that pushes you forward, the fire that keeps you moving, and the evidence that you are stronger than anything that tried to break you. Your future opens the second you shift from, why is this happening to me, to what can I do about it? That single mental shift may seem small, but it is one of the most powerful transformations a person can experience. When you ask, "Why is this happening to me?" you put yourself in the position of a victim. You assume life is acting against you, that circumstances are controlling your direction, and that you have little to no influence over what comes next. This mindset drains your energy because it focuses on problems, not possibilities. It keeps you stuck in emotional loops where frustration, confusion, and helplessness grow. You become reactive rather than proactive, waiting for life to improve instead of creating the conditions for improvement. But the moment you ask, "What can I do about it?" everything changes. You reclaim agency. You shift your attention from the uncontrollable to the controllable. You stop giving your power away to events and start channeling it into actions. This change in mindset doesn't magically erase challenges, but it transforms your relationship with them. "What can I do about it?" opens the door to solutions. It forces your mind to search for strategies, options, and steps you can take. It activates creativity, resilience, and responsibility. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by what you can't change, you begin focusing on what you can change, even if the first step is small. Progress, no matter how small, builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds transformation. You begin to see that every challenge carries within it an opportunity, not always an easy one, not always an obvious one, but always a chance for growth. This shift also strengthens your emotional resilience. When you believe life is targeting you, every setback feels personal, heavy, and draining. But when you believe you have the power to influence your circumstance, setbacks turn into signals pointing you toward new decisions, new behaviors, or new directions. You stop internalizing problems and start navigating them. You become less affected by external chaos because your sense of control comes from within. You begin to trust yourself more deeply, knowing you can handle uncertainty with clarity and intention. As you adopt the question, "What can I do about it?" your identity evolves. You stop seeing yourself as someone life happens to and start seeing yourself as someone who shapes outcomes. This mindset propels you into growth because it forces you to act rather than wait. It pushes you to reflect, adapt, and rise. People who embrace this perspective become leaders of their own lives. They walk with purpose, not fear. They solve, they adjust, they move forward, and they continually reinvent themselves because they understand that the power to direct their future lies in the decisions they make in the present. This shift also sparks inner strength you may not realize you have. When you choose to act rather than complain, you discover your resourcefulness. When you take responsibility instead of waiting, you discover your courage. When you respond with intention instead of emotion, you discover your wisdom. Your future begins expanding the moment you realize you are not stuck. You are simply one decision away from a different direction. And every time you ask, "What can I do about it?" you choose that direction with intention, clarity, and power. Nothing in life transforms until you decide you are done being a victim and ready to own your power. This decision is not loud, dramatic, or always visible to others. It often happens in a quiet, private moment where you finally look at your life with complete honesty and admit that you are capable of more. For many people, the identity of being a victim becomes familiar. It becomes a story they repeat so often that it starts to feel like truth. "This is just how my life is." But that story is not destiny, it is a mindset. And mindsets can change the instant you decide they no longer serve you. The moment you say, "I'm done surrendering my power," your life begins to shift. This is the point where you stop waiting for someone to change your circumstances, stop searching for permission to rise, and stop identifying yourself by your wounds, failures, or limitations. Owning your power doesn't mean life becomes easier. It means you become stronger. It means you stop letting fear dictate your choices. It means you stop living in reaction to pain and start living in alignment with purpose. Victimhood is passive, power is active. Victimhood waits for circumstances to improve. Power creates improvement through intentional action. Power takes responsibility for emotional growth, for mindset, for habits, for environment. Power acknowledges the past but refuses to be defined by it. When you choose to step out of victim mode, you choose to stop being controlled by what happened to you and start being guided by what you want to create. This decision also changes the way you face adversity. As long as you see yourself as powerless, every challenge feels like confirmation that you're stuck. But when you own your power, challenges become invitations. They become tests that draw out your strength, your creativity, and your determination. You begin to see obstacles not as attacks, but as opportunities to rise. The identity shift from victim to creator is one of the most important transformations in personal growth. It's the difference between being limited by life and becoming limitless within it. It's the difference between walking in hesitation and walking in certainty. It's the difference between repeating the same patterns and breaking through them. Owning your power also requires you to change the language you use with yourself. Victims say things like, I can't, I don't know how, life is against me, or this always happens to me. Powerful people say, I'll figure it out, this is temporary, I am capable, and I decide what happens next. These small shifts in language create massive shifts in identity because the words you speak become the beliefs you live by. Once you claim your power, you begin to act like someone who is responsible for their future, deliberate with their choices, and intentional about their growth. When you choose to stop being a victim, you ignite a version of yourself that has been waiting underneath the weight of doubt and fear. You make room for courage, possibility, and self-belief to take over. You stop shrinking to match your circumstances and start expanding to match your potential. And that single decision, quiet, firm, and deeply personal, becomes the doorway to a life where you no longer react to the world but shape your place in it.